early 70s, Nidra Devi Dasi, although she wasn't yet Nidra Devi Dasi, was actually a school teacher. I think it was in Canada, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And somehow or other, he came in contact with the Bhagavad Gita. And after reading that Bhagavad Gita as it is, the correct one, Bhagavad Gita as it is, she understood just from that Srila Prabhupada is so real. So with much prayer, she felt personally guided by Srila Prabhupada's internal direction to quit her teaching career, which was a big shock to the school, and joined the ashram. And she came to America, to Denver, Colorado, to do that. And she's been one of the pillars, remains one of the pillars of Prabhupada's mission in Denver. And she's a dedicated book distributor. She's a dedicated prasadam distributor, and she's a dedicated distributor of Krishna's nectar.
Maldi Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. Your voice is not very clear. It is very low and it's not clear also.
No, it is. Maybe I don't know what to say.
It's a little better now.
I can hear her.
Anyway, I just give a short personal that when I was doing the cross-country tours with the young ladies, stopping in Denver, either going west or coming back, going east, we would stop in Denver. And each year it would be mostly a different crew of young ladies. So I remember one year we were coming in and I started talking about Nidra. I was telling the girls about this incredible devotee. And we came over this hill, and all of a sudden, on one side was a big park, and there was a stoplight, and we had to stop. And there was Nidra walking across towards carrying a hand-pulled trolley filled with books, of course, you know. And I felt that very blessed to see her. It was almost magical, and I look forward to association whenever I can and however I can get it. Hare Krishna.
Thanks, Malati Prabhu. Thank you for your kindness. Thanks for asking me to associate with you all this evening. Much appreciation. So I'd just like to offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatideshatarine. So I want to thank all of you for asking me to come and for organizing this and for all the services that you're doing there. It's a wonderful project that you have going, and ongoing preaching in Columbus for all the decades. So thank you very much for having me. And what I would like to speak on tonight is a book distribution. And the way I'd like to do it is to refer to a quote from Srila Prabhupada's letters or writings, and a little reflection on or realization on the quote, and then an example or a little story to go with it. So I'll start off with a letter that Prabhupada had written to a disciple in 1970. And he says, so go on with your organization for distribution of my books through press and other modern media, and Krishna will certainly be pleased upon you. We can use everything, television, radio, movies, or whatever there may be, to tell about Krishna, and outside of devotional service, all these modern paraphernalia are just so much rubbish. So this is utility. Prabhupada was so much able to utilize everything in Krishna's service, and so he's teaching us to do that. And we're seeing the examples like Yadubar and Vishaka Prabhu's, how they came out with the movie Hare Krishna, all about Prabhupada's life. So utilizing the technology to spread the glories of Srila Prabhupada and his whole mission to present Krishna consciousness to the West and to the world, and his book distribution. So utility was very important to Srila Prabhupada, and also became very important to his devotees, and including Yadubar and Vishaka Prabhu's. And so they utilized modern media, which devotees are doing now, and we're hearing Malati Prabhu and so many others speaking on GBC, SBT channels, and everybody all over the world utilizing the media. So this is something very important for us at this time, to stay connected. And one of the examples that's really nice from this utilization principle is that in Colorado, there's a devotee in Colorado Springs named Hal Carlisle, and he is like a programmer, and he would program different maps and routes and things like that. Anyway, he was very talented. So he decided one day to do this for his book distribution, local book distribution in Colorado Springs. And they have these little stands in the residences called free libraries. You might have seen them. They look like almost like a little post box or a birdhouse or something. And they just stand in residential areas near the sidewalk, and they have books in them. So he thought, what a good idea to put Srila Prabhupada's books in these stands. So when I heard about what he was doing, I thought, this is great, because we have a lot of them here in Denver. So we started literally collecting a free library team here in Colorado. And then it just started moving out to all the different states and all the different devotees all over North America, even in Canada. So regularly books going into these free libraries. And in Minneapolis, they did thousands of books just in these libraries during this pandemic time, which they found was a really good way to get out and get enlivened, you know, without any difficulties for distributing. So if anybody there is interested, let us know. And we can hook you up with Hal Carlisle, and he can send you like a Google map, and it will show all the free libraries in your area. So it's a wonderful way to engage if you'd like to get out for a little family outing and, you know, still stay safe, so to speak. So the next quote is actually short from a letter to Giriraj Maharaj in 1971. Just maintain our strong position of purity of routine work and preach and distribute literature. That's all. So these were practices that were given to us by Srila Prabhupada for purity, both external and internal purity, you know, and especially to engage in the deity worship, both home and in the temples, and maintaining a standard of cleanliness. And then also internal purity coming from chanting of the holy names, you know, Cheto Darpanamarjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. So Srila Prabhupada was asking that we engage in these practices for purity so that we could more effectively engage in his distribution, his mission. So some examples of that were that many times we would be distributing in airports before there were regulations about smoking cigarettes, and people would smoke just about anywhere. And nobody, the distributors, nobody felt very externally pure in such an environment. But internally, we understood that Prabhupada said, try to, in your heart, maintain a level of purity. Try to take your consciousness of your sadhana during the morning hours, your japa and your Bhagavatam readings, and take that sadhana and keep that in your heart. Keep this internal purity. Even if you're out there in the public and it's a very sort of impure environment. Even it said that Lord Nityananda, if he went into a liquor shop, nobody doubted his purity, even though the externals were so, contaminating. So Srila Prabhupada gave us that way to engage in his service, even in a very impure world, but to have that internal purity. So the next letter was to Yogeshwar Prabhu, and this is in 1971. These books are the best advertising. They are better than advertising. If we simply present Krishna consciousness in a serious and attractive way, without need to resort to fashionable slogans or tricks, that is sufficient. Our unique asset is our purity. So Krishna, he's all attractive. And these books are literary incarnations. They're all attractive to hear. So believe it or not, for many people, just to hear Srila Prabhupada's books quoted to them or explained to them in your own words is very actually attractive. It's attractive to the soul. For example, when Prabhupada asked Mula Prakriti, who was a very special devotee book distributor in the 70s, 80s, he was asking her, in I think it was Hawaii, what kind of people do you meet? What do you say? And so she was saying so many things. And then Prabhupada said, he took out the first canto and he was quoting from the first canto of what you should say. And he said, you tell them this verse. It's so wonderful. And the verse is, this Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So we can see that we can present the books in an attractive way because Krishna is all attractive. And sometimes you can bring forth the Bhagavatam verbatim, or other times you may feel inspired in the heart to put it in your own words, but the merit of the book you present to the people. And there was a funny example one time we were distributing at the old Denver airport, and it was Varahadev's appearance day. And we just happened to have gotten a big pallet of the third canto Bhagavatam from the book trust. And so it had the pastimes of Lord Varahadev. And so as soon as we started distributing that morning, there was a group of Mormon elders, missionaries from the Mormon church in Utah, and they were coming to Denver to do their missionary work. So we stopped them and told them we're missionaries too. And so we showed them the third canto we'd just gotten in, and we explained to them that this is Lord Varahadev's appearance day. And so we showed them the pictures, the windows in the spiritual world from the Bhagavatam, and read a little bit about Lord Varahadev, which is a rather unique, pastime. And they became very fascinated. Who knows if they thought it was mythology or what they thought in their hearts, but they became very, very attractive. And actually, they took the books. They wanted to read more about the Varahadev. And then one time, actually, Vaisheshika Prabhu, he was saying that sometimes he would recite practically verbatim, distributing Prabhupada's books. And he would ask people, please, would like to show you these books. And he said sometimes people would be averse and they would say, oh, we're not interested in organized religion. And he'd say, well, perfect. He would say, these books reject anything that's materially motivated, like organized religion. And then he would quote from the first canto, first chapter, I think it's the second verse, and he would quote about completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. And he said that most of the time people would be satisfied with this and they would take a book. So we can see how it's a wonderful thing that Prabhupada's presented to us, attractive, simple way of presenting the Lord. And the next quote is from Bhagavad Gita 5:25. It's from the purport. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. And we can see that during this pandemic time, people are really suffering a lot. And so devotees are realizing that we also sometimes feel the weight of the situation. So what can we do? And realizations were popping up all over the world. Let's get together, virtually, and let us revive our Krishna consciousness and revive the Krishna consciousness of others. So many examples of these Zoom lectures, etc., are giving us this opportunity to help the people that are so much suffering in the world. The next quote is from a letter to Lubavati. This is in 1972. The more such literatures are read and distributed, the more auspicity will be there in the world. So book distribution en masse going on, in the 70s, and whatever we could do in the subsequent decades, especially, in the 70s and 80s, we saw that the whole world was being affected, and the former Soviet Union collapsed. And then we're even seeing now that distribution and Krishna consciousness is somehow going on in places like China and different places in the Middle East. So what we realize is that many auspicious things are happening because of the distribution of Krishna consciousness around the world. Many people think, well, this is due to some political reason, economic reason, but we see this in the larger picture of Lord Chaitanya's plan, that auspicity will be there for the world because of distributing Krishna consciousness. So many times we had the opportunity to distribute to people, a lot of businessmen who would travel from Russia and China when it was not really an open economic phase of time, more or less like in the 80s. And when I would be visiting in Los Angeles and distributing there, I had the opportunity to meet a lot of these different groups from the former Soviet Union and also from China. And we did have books in Russian, we had books in Chinese. It was an amazing thing. Many of these people, of course, spoke English. And one time, I had the opportunity to see a big tour group from Russia. And the tour guide, of course, was bilingual. And I asked her, I said, would you be willing to explain to everyone in your language that I have a whole box of books here as a gift for welcoming you to our city of Los Angeles. And so she did, and she introduced Prabhupada's books. She didn't really know what was happening. And so she introduced them, and everyone was very happy to take them. So I just explained, maybe they wouldn't mind to read about something which is giving higher consciousness and awareness of how to be happy in life and be more full and realize ourself beyond just the material body. So that was an amazing situation to reach out to the other parts of the world. So this next letter is to Jayadvaita. He was probably a brahmachari in 72, perhaps, Jayadvaita Swami. These books and magazines are our most important propaganda weapons to defeat the ignorance of Maya's army. And the more we produce such literature and sell them profusely all over the world, the more we shall deliver the world from the suicide course. So your work is the most important preaching work. May Krishna bless you more and more. Thank you for helping me in this way. So we can see that in Prabhupada's books, we realize that this information, especially in the Gita, when we see the information, transcendental knowledge, that you're not the body, then this is very much kind of like part of the cure, isn't it, for those who are suicidal, because they realize a higher nature. And so one time, an example of this was one of our devotees was distributing in a parking lot, and there were so many people walking through the lot, and he happened to notice that there was one young man in a car just sitting there. He looked like he was just, ready for him to come to the window. So he came to the window, knocked on the window, and was talking to this young man in the car and showing him Prabhupada's books, explaining to him the Bhagavad Gita and how, we're not the body, showing him the change of body, boyhood to youth to old age, and explaining to him, the freedom from anxiety and distress that comes from this higher knowledge. And the boy began to tremble. And he said, "Oh, I must have this book." And he said, I have to tell you, I was just about ready to complete my suicide plans. He said, "But because you've presented me this book, I will study this book, and I have faith in this knowledge. I can see that this is presenting something higher, and that I was just, in such a distress, not realizing that I have an existence, beyond just this material body." He became like practically self-realized on the spot. So this is saving us from the suicide course, as Prabhupada said. Then this next letter is to try in 72. That is advancement in Krishna consciousness, to stick tightly to the desire or orders of the spiritual master. Because my Guru Maharaj ordered it, and I am also ordering it, go on preaching, spread this Krishna consciousness all over the world. So we can see the realization is that Prabhupada imbibed this missionary spirit from his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And because Prabhupada had perfectly imbibed it, he was able to pass it on to all of his disciples and followers. And they imbibed this enthusiasm for this mission to go on preaching Krishna consciousness. So this Wednesday, at least here in Denver, I don't know what day there, but we'll be celebrating the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Srila Prabhupada, he just was fixed on this order of his Guru Maharaj. And you can see that anyone who's appreciating Prabhupada in his books takes up these instructions one way or another to impart Krishna consciousness in whatever they're doing on the job or at school or being a parent or a leader, whatever you're doing, taking up this order of the missionary spirit. So practically speaking, you can see the examples of devotees taking up this order, even if they weren't realized in a full way. They felt the duty, Prabhupada wants this, I should go out. So, so many times devotees would go out into amazingly difficult situations. You can imagine what must it be like going out in Finland or somewhere like that, or in Siberia. We probably heard about Indra Swami's escapades in Siberia and the terrible weather conditions. But just going out because they heard the instructions from Srila Prabhupada through his books, or maybe personally, and decided it doesn't matter. We'll just go and we'll do this. Just like in Columbus, it probably gets very cold, or maybe it does get hot, and so many inconveniences. But taking up the order of the spiritual master makes it seem like, well, this is something we want to do out of love, and we don't mind. So the next letter is to Rameshwar in 1973. In order to change this materialistic society and prevent them from gliding to hell, first thing is to educate them. All decent men want to give service to humanity. Only thing is they do not have information, really, what is that service? Hospitals, feeding the poor, Red Cross, these are services to the bodies, not to the man. Of course, that's for those who are conducting these hospitals and feeding the poor without Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, with Krishna consciousness, this is all very good. But without it, it's not helping. It's just helping the body. So devotees, no matter what they do, if Bhaktivinoda Hospital or in prasad distribution, they are actually feeding the soul, caring for the soul, as well as the body. Service to humanity means gyan. By giving people knowledge, gyan, that is the highest service to humanity. So we are performing the actual welfare work of society by informing everyone through our literatures who is God, who they are, and what is the relationship. In this way, everyone who hears our message gets the opportunity to fulfill his actual position as a human entity and become delivered from the clutches of Maya. So you can see this is what Rupa Goswami has taught to us through Srila Prabhupada, that the highest welfare work is this preaching and spreading of Krishna consciousness. So we never have to doubt that we are not doing the best thing for the world and for ourselves. And we can be followers of the Goswamis and the whole parampara by just taking up this welfare work. So we get a realization, wow, this is connecting us to Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, to all these acharyas, to the whole parampara. And that gives us the empowerment. So many times when we were distributing many places, different venues, the people that were working there, like say, for example, at the airport, many times they would watch the distributors, and also passengers who were waiting for a flight would also watch the distributors. And Prabhupada would say that just by watching or appreciating, seeing, devotional service being performed, they would benefit from this. And amazing things used to happen. People would come up to us and want to hire us for jobs in their companies, sales or whatever. And in fact, because they could understand we were doing something, some kind of welfare work, because they could see that we were motivated on a mission. And it wasn't like an ordinary thing, because we did not show any interest in their multi-million-dollar offers. So they could see, oh, this is something very special. They're interested in the welfare of the world. So it would impress a lot of people. So next is, this is a lecture that Prabhupada gave, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto. He lectured in 1974. There is no comparison. There's no literature throughout the universe like Srimad Bhagavatam. There's no comparison. There's no competition. Every word is for the good of the human society. Every word, each and every word. Therefore, we stress so much in the book distribution. Somehow or other, if the book goes out in one's hand, he'll be benefited. At least he will see, oh, I have taken so much price. Let me see what is there. If he reads one shloka, his life will be successful. If he reads one shloka, one word, this is such a nice thing. Therefore, we are stressing so much. Please distribute book, distribute book, distribute book. A greater mridanga. We are chanting, playing our mridanga. It's heard within the room or a little more. But this mridanga will go home to home, country to country, community to community. This mridanga. So one thing we realized in distributing anywhere is that it's a home-to-home, country-to-country situation, because you're meeting, in this day and age, people from all over the world, practically everywhere in the world, especially in the cities. Everything is so cosmopolitan, and people are coming from all parts of the world. Even just, going to the museum here, people come, especially in the summertime. They're from all over the world. So you realize that this is the big mridanga, Brihat Mridanga. Just by going to different venues, you can go even to your Indian store or international store, or you can go just about anywhere on a street in a city, and you'll find people from all over the world. And in this way, we realize that we're able to benefit the world even within our own neighborhood, practically speaking. So many different examples of this, how the books are so amazing. One time, I was distributing 6 cantos at the old Stapleton Airport, Denver Airport. And that particular canto has a picture of Ajamil and the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. And so this one boy, I stopped this one boy, and I was showing him the book, and he didn't seem like super interested, but then he was looking at I think it was the back cover, and it had the picture of Ajamil and the Yamadutas. And when he saw that, he became like sort of frantic and ecstatic at the same time. And I was wondering, oh my gosh, is he like going to have an epileptic fit? And he said, this is it. This is what happened to me. I always wondered what happened. I said, what do you mean? And he said, these are the people I saw. I had this out of, body experience. I had like a near-death experience. And I never could figure it out. And I saw these ugly creatures, and they were trying to drag me away. And for some reason, somehow it all stopped. I couldn't make, any sense out of the whole thing. And I always wondered. And he said, now I'm looking at this, and this is exactly what happened. And I'm just so grateful. And he was like in tears. And he said, now I'm going to read about this. That is an amazing thing. So Prabhupada is doing so many wonderful things for the souls. And our realization is that we just have to be the instruments. So this next letter is to Satsvarup. who's Satsvarup Maharaj now, in 74. Whenever I get report of my book selling, I feel strength. Even now, in this weakened condition, I have got strength from your report. You should know that is this work. You have, in this work, you have Krishna's blessings. So we can see that if we give ourselves, the realization is, we give ourselves to pleasing the Guru and Guranga, then everything is there. You know, the Guru is feeling pleased. Prabhupada was feeling this strength. And we feel strength. We feel spiritual strength. And we feel happy and pleased because he's pleased. Our spiritual master is pleased. And we can see that when the reports go out throughout the world, like perhaps maybe some of you might have been following the different distribution programs that went on during the COVID time that were headed up by, I guess, Vaisheshika Prabhu, and then getting all the world involved in the Bhadra Purnima, the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam sets. And so many sets were distributed. I think he said like 24,000 or something. It's huge. So everybody, devotees were like getting strength. Oh, you know, here we are during this pandemic. It's so difficult. But then this amazing, amazing marathon took place. And the whole world of devotees was feeling strengthened. And also, too, after the Gita marathon as well. And two, I remember when Srila Prabhupada had left the planet in November in 77. So the next month was the Prabhupada Marathon in December. And devotees were in a quandary, you know, what's to happen? You know, how are we going to do this? Prabhupada's not with us, so-called. And then devotees were saying, but wait, no, Prabhupada said that his Guru Maharaj is always with him and that he's always with us, as if we remember, you know, his instructions, his Vani. So then devotees all around the world thought, yes, let's remember Prabhupada's Vani. And so it became the biggest Prabhupada marathon ever. And devotees took heart and they took strength from this, seeing that they just have to remember their Guru's instructions, and then everything will come and they will feel enthused. So the next letter is to Rupanuga in 74. Regarding Sankirtan and book distribution is also chanting. Anyone who reads the books, that is also chanting and hearing. Why distinguish between chanting and book distribution? These books I have recorded and chanted, and they are transcribed. It is spoken kirtans, so book distribution is also chanting. These are not ordinary books. It is recorded chanting. Anyone who reads, he is hearing. Book distribution must not be neglected. So that's to Rupanuga 74. So we can see that it's kind of like sometimes described as sort of an informal kind of initiation in a way, like the conditioned souls are receiving this knowledge and they're receiving the holy names from Srila Prabhupada, you know, the Jagat Guru. He's the guru of the whole universe. So we realize that these people are starting their spiritual life. Prabhupada would say like initiation is the beginning. So it's a sort of an informal beginning for all the souls that come in contact with Prabhupada's books because they come in contact with chanting, with kirtan, the literary kirtan. And we had many examples of this where I can remember distributing books to people in all different venues, and they would look at the book, and many of them would immediately start chanting. You know, maybe they didn't know the whole mantra, but they would go, oh, Hare Krishna, right? This is Hare Krishna. So we can see that just by their contact with Srila Prabhupada in the form of these books. even if they hadn't read a page or a word yet, they were becoming, beginners in Krishna consciousness. So many times we could see that right on the spot. The conditioned soul was getting a beginning foundation in their spiritual life. So next is, these are the concluding words to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I thought to include this, especially since Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's appearance day is coming up. And we've been having, our different presentations on the Chaitanya Charitamrita with the GBC SBT. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is all due to His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Certainly, if His Divine Grace were personally present at this time, it would have been a great occasion for jubilation. But even though He is not physically present, I am confident that He is very much pleased by this work of translation. He is very fond of seeing many books published to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, has been formed to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, Srila Prabhupada, following Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's instructions, he wanted Chaitanya Charitamritas to be distributed all over the world. And even before the Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon, there was one volume that was published, and there was also, the small book on the 7th chapter of Adi Leela that was also printed and distributed. And one time, there's a kind of a fun example. We were at this sports arena, and it was a basketball game, and there were all these sports fans coming, and the only books we had at the time for distribution at this sports game were these big volumes of Chaitanya Charitamrita that were published before the marathon. And so anyway, they were big, like an encyclopedia size. So we saw this one priest, and we thought, wow, what's he doing at this basketball game? So we went up to him and we showed him the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was fascinated. And we told him, the Lord is appearing in such a compassionate way, just like you priests. You're trying to be so compassionate to the world and help them to remember God. And so this is all about Lord Chaitanya and how He's trying to help this whole world remember God. So even though he was with this group of rowdy guys, he was really happy to receive the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in fact, because he was a little influential over the group, others took books too. So that was a really fun thing. So Prabhupada wanted the Chaitanya Charitamrita really widely distributed. This here is Prabhupada from his purport in Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purposes. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. So we can see what we're realizing from this is that this yajna actually makes us happy. It's a sacrifice, it's a yajna. And we're thinking, what? Sacrifice our life? But actually, human form of life is meant for sacrifice. And so this is what gives happiness to the soul and to all the world, to the conditioned soul. So our realization is that don't worry about sacrifice. It's not like we're not going to be content and happy in our life when we sacrifice our whole life for this mission. No, we will actually be more satisfied. We will become actually Krishna conscious. And there's an interesting example that I can remember. One time we were distributing, and one gentleman, he had talked to us. We were telling him how, this is our mission, and he was kind of saying, well, it seems like you're sacrificing your youth, because we were young at the time, in our 20s. And so he said, what are you doing? So we showed him the Krishna books, and they were really beautiful, big, silver Krishna books. They were huge. And so he said, wow, these are pretty amazing. And this is what you're doing. This is what your mission's all about, this Krishna. And he said, this is very intriguing. And he said, very interesting what you're doing. He said, would you mind if I take a bunch of these books and go into the bar in the airport here, and I distribute them to the people in the bar? Maybe they could use a little help. So he actually took the books. First time he's seeing Krishna book, he went into the bar and he sold all the books. He came back and gave his, donations. And then he said, I wouldn't mind if you had more. I'll go back again. So that's what he did. He said, this is quite a mission you have here. He said, I think I don't mind a little bit of a sacrifice for Krishna myself. So that was a sweet little story. So just a little bit about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to close off. This is from Prabhupada's arrival address in Los Angeles in 1975. I have no personal qualification, but I simply tried to satisfy my guru, that's all. My Guru Maharaj asked me that if you get some money, you print books. So there was a private meeting, talking. Some of my important godbrothers also there. It was a private meeting. It was in Radhakund. So Guru Maharaj was speaking to me that since we have got this Bagh Bazaar marble temple, there has been so many dissensions, and everyone's thinking who will occupy this room or that room. I wish, therefore, to sell this temple and the marble and print some books. Yes. So I took up this from his mouth that he is very fond of books, and he told me personally that if you get some money, print books. Therefore, I am stressing on this point. Where is book? Where is book? Where is book? So kindly help me. This is my request. Print as many books in as many languages and distribute throughout the whole world. Then Krishna consciousness movement will automatically increase. So that you can see that if we just print these books, then everything will come, money, this, that, facilities. And we can see that Lakshmi always wants to be with Narayan, right? Sita wants to be with Ram, Radha with Krishna. They are together. So we can see that the whole idea of distributing these books is to have Lakshmi and Narayan, have Radha and Krishna, Sita, Ram, go out to the world, that they are broadcasting to the world that this is what Lakshmi is really meant for spreading Krishna consciousness, raising your family to be Krishna conscious, not to engage in dissension over I want this, I want that. So the realization is always, have the goddess of fortune, the supreme goddess Radha with Krishna, and always present Prabhupada's books, show Radha and Krishna in a presentable way to the world so that they can see, you know, what is Lakshmi really meant for? Who's, you know, what's all this about? You know, should I be materialistic anymore? No, that this is meant, you know, to make us happy and to make us appreciate that everything's coming from Krishna. And so we appreciated that when we would go and distribute books for the Chinese New Year at the Asian stores, that we'd bring books in many different languages. And this is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta wanted, and Prabhupada wanted. The books go out and they go out into the world with all the languages. So we would bring books in Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean and Japanese and also Urdu and Spanish and English to this area of town, and try to see that in this way the whole world, you know, like Prabhupada said here, in as many books and in as many languages as possible, distribute to the whole world. So yeah, just a closing letter to Shri Dakshay Vishnu 75. Simply read my books and repeat what I've written, and then your preaching will be perfect. So I heard that you have programs for Bhagavatam, you know, reading. So just read the books and repeat what's written in the books, share it with others, and your life will be perfect. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Mataji. It was really wonderful. Thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you very much for your association, and all blessings of your deities and Radha Govinda and Srila Prabhupada, your Guru Maharajas, for ongoing Krishna consciousness and wonderful project you have there, and preaching to the students and all the nice people, and yeah, keep well.
Thank you. Thank you for your blessings. And
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thanks, Malati Prabhu.
Well,
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you, Mataji and devotees, for joining today. So
Thank you.
thank you, Mataji. So we have next week, we have Kuladri Prabhu, who is going to join us and share some of the memories with Srila Prabhupada. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So he's going to join us next week to share some of the memories and how he got introduced to ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada, how he met Srila Prabhupada. So that's what we are going to have next Monday at the same time, 6:30. So see you all again. Thank you. Hare Krishna.